Well, welcome to another edition of Traveling Through History. Tonight, we have a special episode for you on a order out of the medieval times that I've always been fascinated with, and that is the Knights Templar. And you've seen references to the Knights Templar in many movies and TV shows and throughout your history classes and in many different ways. The Knights Templar were an incredibly interesting organization. They started as a religious order. They were Catholics. They actually got the blessing of the papacy in 1119. They were formed for the purposes of defending Christians who wanted to make the pilgrimage to Jerusalem and to the Holy Land, to go to the land where Jesus lived and be able to go and make that pilgrimage at least one time in their life. So you can imagine back in those times, in medieval times, the Europeans making that journey was very dangerous. They would be going through many different lands with many different people that would want to harm them or rob them. They could be murdered, they could be tortured or even imprisoned. There are many things that could have happened to them. So the Knights Templar formed as a group of Christian knights that were monastic. They looked at themselves as kind of like monks, but on the battlefield. They rode horses. They were incredibly good warriors. They wore full armor, and they would ride along with these Europeans from Europe to Jerusalem and then ride back with them when those groups of Europeans wanted to go back home. In addition, they, over time, started to station some of the knights in Jerusalem itself and to protect the Temple Mount, which currently today is one of the most holy sites for all three religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. But back then, the Christians felt very strongly they needed a presence there in the city of Jerusalem to, again, protect Christian rights in the holiest of cities. And so the Knights Templar were formed for that purpose. And for the first 50 years or so, that's what they did. But then as they gained notoriety, as they gained fame all over Europe, they started to gain some wealth. They started to receive payments from the people that would ask for their protection. A lot of the people that traveled to Jerusalem would deposit all of their assets with the Knights Templar. And so over time, they also became almost like a medieval bank. They had a Knights Templar bank that people would deposit their monies or their assets into, their gold and other things. They also received very large donations from Christians all over Europe and all over the Middle East, and became one of the richest organizations in world history. The Knights Templar, for 250 years, gathering many different estates, pieces of land. At one time, they actually ran and owned 800 castles all over Europe and the Levant. And it was just an incredible thing that happened, this organization over time. They were incredibly powerful, responsible, good business people, good Christians, gave a lot of their tithings to the poor, which they felt like was their mission, but also were just really, really good bankers and businessmen on top of being great warriors. The requirements to get into the Knights Templar, we'll go into great detail tonight on, but were very difficult. They asked you to be celibate. They asked you to be poor and to give up all of your assets to the Knights Templar organization. They asked you to essentially sacrifice your entire adult life to do the mission of the Templars, which was to protect Christians on their way to Jerusalem and back, and also to do all the rest of the bidding of the Knights Templar organization. It was an incredibly secret organization, many aspects of which we don't know that much about. We don't know a lot of the different ceremonies that they did behind closed doors and how they admitted people or didn't admit people. We don't have a lot of real detail about how that happened. We just know it was a very select group that was chosen for this very interesting organization. So tonight we're going to go into all details of the Knights Templar, this medieval religious, military, and banking and financial organization that really dominated medieval times for a long period of time. Towards the end of the Knights Templar era, you'll find out how they came to an end. Essentially, a lot of the kings and kingdoms around Europe started to get very alarmed with the power that the Knights Templar had put together over their 250-year reign, and started to find ways to try to chip away at them and try to find ways to shut them down, and did so. And eventually they were dismantled by actually the King of France. So we'll get into all those details tonight. So the Knights Templar order was formed in 1119 AD when 7 knights, led by a French knight and nobleman from Champagne, France, Hugh of Paynes, swore to defend Christian pilgrims in Jerusalem and the Holy Land. and so created a brotherhood whose monastic views, which included vows of poverty and celibacy, and they lived together in a closed community which established in a code of conduct. In 1120, Baldwin II, the king of Jerusalem, gave the knights his palace, the former Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount of Jerusalem, for use as their headquarters. The building was commonly referred to as the Temple of Solomon, and so the brotherhood quickly became known as the Order of the Knights of the Temple of Solomon, or quite simply, the Templars. Officially recognized as an order by Pope Honorius II at the Council of Troyes in January 1129, the Templars were initially considered a branch of the Caesarians. In 1145, Knights of the Order were granted permission to wear the white hooded mantle Caesarian monks had made on their own. The Knights soon adopted their distinctive white cloak, which they began to use the insignia of a red cross on white background, which was their signature look. There was no impediment to fighting as regards to religious doctrine, provided that the cause was a just one, the Crusades and the defense of the Holy Land being just such a cause. And so the order received official support of the church, believing that all of the fighting they did were on behalf of God. The first major battle involving Templar Knights was in 1147 against Muslims during the Second Crusade, which was from 1147 to 1149. The order grew thanks to donations from supporters who recognized their important role in the protection of small Christian states in the Levant. Others, from the humblest to the rich, gave everything that they could to simply ensure both the better afterlife and, because donors would be mentioned in prayer services, perhaps a better life in the here and now. Much of those funds went to the Templars. Donations came in all forms. Money, land, horses, military equipment, and foodstuffs were the most common. Sometimes privileges were donated which helped the order save on its own expenses. The Templars invested their money too, buying revenue-producing properties so that the order came to own farms and vineyards, mills, churches, townships, or anything else that they found as a good investment. In addition, many parishioners throughout Europe actually gave pieces of land to the Templars as a donation. Another boost to the order's coffers was booty and new land acquired as a result of successful campaigns, while tribute could also be extracted from conquered cities. Lands controlled by Templar castles and weaker rival states in the Levant. So you can see as they were doing their defense of Christians, they also were doing some conquering as well through the centuries. Eventually, the order was able to establish a subsidiary center in most of the states in West Europe, which became important sources of revenue and new recruits throughout the centuries. Money may have poured in from all corners of Europe, but there were high costs to be met too. Maintaining knights and their squires, their horses, and armor and equipment were all drains on Templars' finances. There were taxes to be paid to the state, donations to the papacy, and sometimes tithes to the church, as well as payoffs to be made to local dignitaries, while performing masses and other services did not have their insignificant costs as well. The Templars also had a charitable purpose for their history and were supposed to help the poor, which they did. 1/10 of the bread produced, for example, was distributed to the needy as alms. Finally, the military disasters resulted in losses of both men and properties in enormous quantities. The exact accounts of the Templars were not known, but it is more than likely that the order was never quite as rich as everyone thought they might have been. From the mid-12th century, the Templars widened their audience and fought in the Crusade campaigns in Iberia, which is modern-day Spain, for various rulers in Spain and Portugal, also operating in the Baltic Crusades against pagans. By the 13th century, the Knights Templar owned estates from England to Bohemia and had become a truly international military order with tremendous resources at its disposal. They had men, they had arms, they had equipment, they had a sizable naval fleet, and as I said before, they had as many as 800 castles at one time. The Templars had established a model which could be copied by other military orders, such as the Knights Hospitaller and Teutonic Knights. There was one area, though, in which the Templars truly excelled, and that was in banking. Regarded as a safe place by locals, Templar communities or convents became repositories for cash and jewels and important documents. The order had their own cash reserves, which were, from as early as 1130, put to good use in the form of interest-gaining loans. The Templars even permitted people to deposit money in one convent, and provided they could show a suitable letter, transfer, and then let them withdraw equivalent money from a different convent in a different country. In another early banking service, people could hold what today would be called current account with the Templars, paying in regular deposits and arranging for Templars to pay out on behalf of the account holder with interest. They would also get fixed sums in sometimes depending on the arrangement. By the 13th century, the Templars had become such proficient and trusted bankers that the kings of France and other nobles kept their treasuries with the order. Kings and nobles who embarked on crusades to the Holy Land in order to pay their armies on the spot and meet supply demands often forwarded large sums of cash to the Templars, which could be withdrawn later in the Levant at a different branch. The Templars even lent money to rulers and thus became an important element in the increasingly sophisticated financial structure of late medieval Europe. So really incredible that these knights that started out as protectors of Christians making the pilgrimage to Jerusalem had become such a humongous real estate and banking and military force. They had all those different aspects to their history. Recruits came in from all over Western Europe, although France was still the largest single source for the Templars. They were motivated by the sense of religious duty to defend Christians everywhere, but especially the Holy Land and its sacred sites. As a penance for sins committed, as a means to guarantee entry into heaven, or for more earthly reasons such as search for adventure, personal gain, social promotion, or simply irregular income and decent meals. Recruits had to be free men of legitimate birth, and if they wished to become medieval knights, they had from the 13th century to be of knightly descent. Although rare, a married man could join provided the spouse agreed. Many recruits were expected to make a significant donation upon entering the order. And as debts were a no-no, the financial status of a recruit was certainly a consideration when recruited. Although some minors did join the order, most new recruits in the Templars were in their mid-20s. Sometimes recruits came in later in life. An example was the great English knight Sir William Marshall in 1219. Like many nobles, joined the order just before his death and left them money in his will. Was so buried in the Temple Church in London, where his effigy may still be seen today. There were two ranks within the order. There were knights and there were sergeants, with the latter group including non-military personnel and laymen. Most recruits for the second group actually came from the regular population. Indeed, the number of knights across the order was surprisingly few. There were perhaps only 100 or 200 full brother Templar knights at any one time, and the rest were all sergeants. The number of the knights actually rose to about 500 knights in times of intense warfare. These knights would have been greatly outnumbered by other soldiers used by the order, such as infantry and sergeants from other units, or even mercenaries, as well as squires, baggage bearers, and other non-combatants. Other members of the order included priests, craftsmen, laborers, servants, and even some women who were members of affiliated nunneries. The order was led by Grand Master, who stood at the top of the pyramid of power. Convents were grouped into geographical regions known as priories. In troubled zones like the Levant, many convents were in castles while elsewhere they were established to control areas of land each order owned. Each convent was managed by a preceptor or commander and reported to the head of the priory in which his convent was situated. Letters and documents and news reports went back and forth between the convents, almost like a network of countries, all carrying the seal of the order, most commonly two knights on a single horse, in order to foster some unity between the distant branches. Convents typically sent one-third of their revenue to the order's headquarters. The Grand Master resided in the headquarters at Jerusalem, and then at Acre from 1191 and Cyprus after 1291, where he was assisted by other high-ranking officials such as the Grand Commandeer and Marshal, along with lesser officials in charge of specific supplies such as clothing and weapons. There were occasional meetings or chapters of representatives from across the order and chapters at provincial levels too, but there seems to have been a great deal of autonomy in local convents. Only episodes of gross misconduct were ever sanctioned. Knights took vows on entering the order, much like in monasteries, although not so strict and without the restriction of always remaining inside their communal accommodations. Obedience to the Grand Master was the most important promise made. Attendance at church services was compulsory, celibacy too, and communal meals were given. Worldly pleasures were not permitted, and these included such knightly pastimes as hunting and hawking and not wearing flashy clothing, and arms which normal knights were famous for. For example, belts were often a medium for decoration, but Templars wore only a simple wool cord belt to symbolize chastity. Templar knights wore a white surcoat and a cloak over their armor, as already mentioned, and carried a cross on their left breast. This made them distinct from the Knights Hospitaller and the Teutonic Knights. Templar shields, in contrast, were usually white with a thick black horizontal stripe across the top. Sergeants wore brown or black mantle or cloak. Another distinguishing feature of the Templars was that they all grew beards and had short hair at the time. Brother knights could have their own personal property, movable or fixed, unlike in some other military orders. Things were less strict in terms of clothing, too, the Templars being allowed to wear linen in spring and summer, not just wool, a decision no doubt appreciated by members in the warmer climates. If any of the regulations of the order, known collectively as the rule, were not followed, the members were punished, which might range from withdrawal of privileges to flogging or even life imprisonment, which did occur. Skilled with the lance, sword, and crossbow, and well armored, the Knights Templar and other military orders were best trained and equipped of any members of the Crusader army. For this reason, they were often deployed to protect the flanks, vanguard, and rear of the army in the field during the Crusades themselves. The Templars were particularly renowned for their disciplined group cavalry charges. When in tight formation, they blasted through enemy lines and caused havoc, which could then be exploited by Allied troops following up their advance. They were also highly disciplined both in battle and in camp, with severe penalties imposed on knights not following orders, including expulsion from the order or losing one's sword or horse through carelessness. That being said, the order as a whole could prove difficult for a Crusader commander to keep check on, given that they were often the most zealous and eager troops to win honor and glory on the battlefield. The Templars were frequently given the task of defending important passes, such as at Amanus north of Antioch. They acquired lands and castles, which the Crusader states were not able to maintain themselves for lack of manpower. They also rebuilt, destroyed, or entirely new castles for better defense of the Christian East. The Templars never forgot their original function as a protector of pilgrims, and they manned many small forts along the pilgrim routes in the Levant or acted as bodyguards along the route. Although involved in many successes, such as the siege of Acre in 1189-91, Damietta in 1218-1219, and Constantinople in 1204, there were some major defeats along the way as well. The Templars could usually expect to be executed if they were captured. At the Battle of La Forbie in Gaza in October 1244, an Aid army defeated a large Latin army and 300 Templar knights were killed. 230 captured Templar knights were beheaded after the Battle of Hattin in 1187, which was won by the army of Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria. More important members of the order, as was typical in that period, were offered up for ransom. The Templar castle at Gaza had to be given up in order to gain release of the captured master after the same battle. Another heavy defeat came in 1250, the Battle of Mansurah in Egypt, during the Seventh Crusade. The vast network of convents, though, always seemed able to replenish any losses in resources and manpower. The Knights Templar always stood strong. Largely a law unto themselves and a powerful military threat, Western rulers became wary of the military orders, including the Knights Templar, especially as they began to accumulate a large network of lands and cash reserves. Like other military orders, the Templars had also been accused of abusing their privileges and extorting the maximum profit of their financial dealings. They were accused of corruption and succumbing to gross pride and avarice. Critics said they lived too soft a life and wasted money, which could be better spent on maintaining troops for the Holy War. They were accused of wasting resources to compete with rival orders, especially the Hospitallers. There was, too, the old argument that monks and warriors were not compatible in terms of their combination. Some even chastised the order for not being interested in converting Muslims, but simply in eliminating them. Most of these criticisms were based on ignorance of the affairs of the order, an exaggeration of their actual wealth in real terms, and a general feeling of jealousy and suspicion of the order. By the end of the 13th century, many considered the military orders too independent for anyone's good, and an amalgamation of them into one single body was the best solution to make them more accountable to the church. Then, around 1307, much more serious accusations against the Templars were circulated. It was said they denied Christ as God, the crucifixion, and the cross. There were rumors that the initiation into the Brotherhood involved trampling, spitting, and urinating on the crucifix. These charges were made public, particularly in the government of France. The ordinary clergy, too, were jealous of the order's rights, such as those of burial, a potentially lucrative sideline for any local church. The political and religious establishment were joining together with the aim of destroying the Templars. The loss of the Crusader states in the Levant in 1291 may seem even more of a trigger. On Friday the 13th, an infamous day even in our culture today, October 1307, King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of all Templars in France. His motivations remain unclear, but suggestions from modern historians include the military threat of the Templars, a desire to acquire their wealth, an opportunity to gain a political and prestige advantage over the papacy, and even Philip actually believed the rumors against the order. To the denial of Christ and the disrespect of the cross were added further accusations of promoting homosexual practices, indecent kissing, and the worship of idols. Initially, Pope Clement V defended unsubstantiated attack on what was, after all, one of his military orders, but Philip managed to extract confessions from several Templars, including Grand Master James of Malay, and as a result, the Pope ordered the arrest of all Templars in Western Europe and their property seized. The Templars were unable to resist, except in Aragon, where a number held out in their castles until 1308. A trial followed in Paris in 1310, after which 54 brothers were burned at the stake. In 1314, 4 years later, the Grand Master of the Order, James of Malay, and the preceptor of Normandy, Geoffrey of Charnay, were also burned too, again in Paris. The fate of the order as a whole, though, was decided by the 1311 Council of Vienne. Investigations carried out in the previous 3 years into the order's affairs across Europe were considered as were confessions. Most of the knights in France and Italy, and 3 from England, confessing to all charges, but none doing so in regard to the most serious accusations from Cyprus and Iberian Peninsula. A group of knights called to hear their defense were, in the event, not called, and then Philip arrived at the council. The Pope officially declared the order terminated on April 3rd, 1312. Although the reason for the damaging loss of its reputation rather than any verdict of guilt. Physical evidence for the accusations, records, statues of idols were never produced. In addition, many knights later retracted their confessions, even when they were already condemned to do so and served no purpose. The majority of the former Templar knights were poisoned, were pensioned off, and banned from joining any other military orders. Many of the assets of the Templars were passed on to the Knights Hospitaller by order of the Pope on May 2nd, 1312. However, a lot of land and money ended up in the pockets of nobles, especially in Castile. The attack on the Templars otherwise had little effect on the other military orders. The discussion to combine them all into a single unit came to nothing. And the Teutonic Knights, probably more deserving of criticism than any order, was saved by its close connections to the secular German rulers. The Teutonic Knights moved their headquarters from Vienna to more remote Prussia, while the Knights Hospitaller wisely moved their headquarters to greater safety in Rhodes. Both moves coming in 1309 and probably ensuring their continued existence in one form or another to present day. So you can see pretty incredible rise for 200 years by this amazing military religious order that did so many things to impact the world, did so many things to help in terms of the Crusades and in terms of the pilgrims to the Holy Land. But in the end, after all the wealth that they gained and all the power they gained as bankers, military leaders, protectors, in the end, the King of France became very jealous, as did many other kingdoms, of their power and influence, decided to take them down, take them off the map, as you can see. So let's go ahead and take a look at a video about the Knights Templar.
15 fascinating facts about the Knights Templar. Secret order revealed. The Knights Templar, a medieval order of warrior monks founded in the 12th century AD, left a profound and multifaceted legacy that extends far beyond their military and religious roles, influencing areas such as banking, law, architecture, and even medical advancements. Who were the Templars? Where did they come from? What were their achievements? And what happened to them? Fact number 1. The Templars have a unique and powerful origin story. The Knights Templar, established around 1119 AD in Jerusalem, emerged during a tumultuous period marked by the Crusades. This period, characterized by religious fervor and conflict, saw the Christian forces embarking on expeditions to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim rule. The Templars, initially a small group of knights, took upon themselves the duty of protecting Christian pilgrims journeying through the treacherous paths to the sacred sites in Jerusalem and its environs. Their foundation was rooted in the need for a dedicated and disciplined military force, capable of ensuring the safety and security of these pilgrims in the volatile environment of the Middle East. The Templars' base of operations was established on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, a site revered for its biblical significance. This location, believed to be the ruins of the Temple of Solomon, lent its name to the newly formed order. Their full title, The Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, reflects both their religious devotion and their connection to this sacred site. The Templars' initiation into the order was a solemn affair, emphasizing their commitment to their cause and the divine mission they believed they were undertaking. Their presence in Jerusalem rapidly became a symbol of the Christian crusading spirit, embedding them deeply into the historical and religious narrative of the Crusades. Fact number 2. Templars were granted extraordinary privileges. The meteoric rise of the Knights Templar in power and prestige was a remarkable phenomenon in medieval Europe. Their growth was propelled by the Church's endorsement and the support of various European monarchs, who viewed the Templars as crucial allies in the religious and military endeavors of the Crusades. The papal bull, Omni Datum Optimum, issued in 1139 by Pope Innocent II, granted the Templars unprecedented privileges, including exemption from local laws and taxes, and the authority to collect their own tithes. This unique combination of religious backing and political autonomy allowed the Templars to expand their influence rapidly across Europe and the Middle East. As their influence grew, so did their wealth. The Templars' involvement in various economic activities, coupled with donations from pious Christians, filled their coffers, enabling them to fund and maintain a formidable military presence in the Holy Land. Their wealth was not just in monetary form, they also received vast tracts of land, contributing further to their economic and political clout. The Templars' role extended beyond the battlefield. They became key players in the socio-political landscape of medieval Europe, acting as advisors to kings and popes and sometimes even as mediators in disputes between powerful rulers. Their rapid ascent to power was a unique event in medieval history, reflecting the complex interplay of religion, politics, and warfare during the Crusades. Fact number 3. The Templars created an ingenious banking system. The Knights Templar are credited with pioneering early forms of banking, an endeavor that significantly enhanced their economic power and influence. They developed a system that allowed pilgrims to deposit funds in their home countries and withdraw equivalent sums upon reaching the Holy Land. This service, akin to modern banking, provided a safe and convenient way for pilgrims to manage their finances, eliminating the need to carry large amounts of cash on perilous journeys. The Templars issued letters of credit, a revolutionary concept at the time, which could be redeemed at various Templar houses along the pilgrims' route. This system not only benefited the pilgrims, but also contributed substantially to the Templars' wealth, as they could invest the deposited funds in various ventures. The Templars' banking operations extended beyond serving pilgrims. They became involved in various financial transactions, including loans to nobles and even monarchs. Their reputation for reliability and honesty in financial matters made them preferred bankers for the European elite. The Templars' financial acumen was not just limited to banking. They were also involved in land management, trade, and even maritime ventures. This diversification of interests and investments further solidified their economic power, making them one of the wealthiest and influential orders of the medieval period. Their role as financial innovators had a lasting impact, laying foundational principles for modern banking practices. Fact number 4. Templars carried a variety of weapons and were visually imposing. The Knights Templar were easily recognizable by their distinctive attire, which became a symbol of their order and its values. They wore white mantles adorned with a red cross, a design that was both simple and symbolic. The white mantle represented their commitment to purity and chastity, aligning with their monastic vows. The red cross, a potent Christian symbol, signified their willingness to suffer martyrdom in the defense of their faith. This emblematic attire was not just a uniform, it was a visual representation of their identity as warrior monks, combining the piety of a religious order with the bravery and discipline of a military force. Beyond their iconic mantles, the Templars were also distinguished by their armor and equipment. They were among the best equipped fighters of their time, donning heavy armor and wielding a variety of weapons, including swords, lances, and shields. The Templar Knights' appearance on the battlefield was imposing, designed to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies while serving as a rallying point for their allies. Their formidable presence was a testament to their dual role as devout religious adherents and skilled warriors, a combination that set them apart from other military orders and knightly groups of the era. Fact number 5. Templars were elite warriors and refused to surrender. The military prowess of the Knights Templar was unparalleled in the Crusades, marking them as elite warriors on the medieval battlefield. Trained rigorously in the arts of war, the Templar Knights were known for their discipline, bravery, and tactical acumen. Their role in key battles of the Crusades often turned the tide in favor of the Christian forces. The Templars' military strategy combined heavy cavalry charges with disciplined infantry formations, making them a formidable force against their adversaries. Their reputation as fierce warriors was bolstered by their commitment to fight to the death rather than retreat or surrender, a resolve stemming from their deep religious conviction and knightly honor. The Templars' military engagements were not limited to open field battles. They were also adept at siege warfare, playing crucial roles in the capture and defense of fortresses across the Holy Land. Their expertise in constructing and managing fortifications contributed significantly to their strategic value in the Crusades. The Templars' military infrastructure, including a network of castles and commanderies, facilitated their operations and logistics, enabling them to project power and influence far beyond their numbers. Their military legacy influenced subsequent military orders and left an enduring mark on the art of war in the medieval period. Fact number 6. Many Templar buildings have survived and are still used today. The Knights Templar amassed vast landholdings and properties across Europe and the Middle East, becoming one of the largest landowners of the medieval period. These lands were not only a source of wealth, but also served as strategic assets, supporting their military and religious missions. The Templars established numerous commanderies, which functioned as administrative centers, farms, and training grounds for knights. These estates were crucial in sustaining the order's operations, providing resources such as food, horses, and equipment. The Templars' efficient management of these lands showcased their skills not just as warriors, but also as administrators and agriculturists. Beyond their role as landowners, the Templars were renowned builders. They constructed some of the most formidable fortresses in the Holy Land, such as the Crac des Chevaliers in Syria, which stood as bulwarks against enemy forces. Their architectural style combined practical military design with elements of religious symbolism, reflecting their dual identity as monks and soldiers. The Templars also contributed to the construction and maintenance of churches and cathedrals in Europe, often influencing local architecture with their distinctive style. Their legacy as builders is evident in the many Templar-influenced structures that still stand today, symbols of their once great empire, and a testament to their role in shaping the medieval landscape. Fact number 7. Templars adopted medical techniques from an unlikely source. The Knights Templar played a significant but often understated role in medical advancements during the medieval period. As a military order, they were frequently confronted with the need to treat wounded knights and soldiers, leading them to develop an interest and expertise in medical care. The Templars established infirmaries in their commanderies and fortresses, where they provided care for both their members and the local populace. These facilities were among the most advanced of their time, equipped with knowledge and practices that were progressive for the era. The Templars' interactions with the Islamic world during the Crusades also facilitated a transfer of medical knowledge. They adopted and adapted techniques and remedies from Muslim physicians, integrating them into their own medical practices. This exchange of medical knowledge was a significant aspect of the cultural interactions between Christian and Muslim worlds during the Crusades. The Templars' contribution to medical knowledge and practice in medieval Europe, while not as widely recognized as their military or religious roles, is a crucial part of their legacy, reflecting their multifaceted role in the societies they were part of. Fact number 8. Templars were required to make difficult sacrifices. The Knights Templar adhered to a strict code of conduct that governed every aspect of their lives, blending the disciplines of monastic life with the rigors of military service. Their rule, initially based on the Cistercian Order's code, emphasized vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. These vows were not mere formalities. They were integral to the Templars' identity, shaping their behavior and interactions both within the order and in the wider world. The vow of poverty meant that individual Templars could not own personal property. Everything they used belonged to the order. This collective ownership model was a radical departure from the feudal norms of the time and reinforced their commitment to a communal life dedicated to service. The Templars' daily routine was a blend of religious observances and military training. They attended multiple church services throughout the day, interspersed with exercises in horsemanship, weapons training, and tactical studies. The order maintained strict discipline, with transgressions punished severely to uphold their high standards. This disciplined lifestyle was essential for maintaining their effectiveness as a military force and their integrity as a religious order. The Templars' adherence to their strict code not only fortified their spiritual and martial prowess, but also helped foster a sense of unity and brotherhood among the knights, creating a cohesive and formidable order that commanded respect and admiration across medieval Christendom. Fact number 9. The Templars used a unique seal which evolved over time. The seal of the Templars, a unique and enduring symbol of the order, depicted two knights riding a single horse. This image was more than just an emblem. It encapsulated the Templars' early ethos and the circumstances of their founding. The depiction of two knights sharing one horse was a representation of their initial vow of poverty. It illustrated the humble beginnings of the order, where resources were so limited that two knights would indeed ride a single horse. This symbol became a powerful visual metaphor for the Templars' commitment to their monastic vows and their unity in purpose. The seal served not only as an identifier, but also as a symbol of the Templars' legitimacy and authority. It was used to authenticate documents and communicate official directives, playing a vital role in the order's administration and governance. The design of the seal evolved over time, with later versions incorporating additional elements like the beau sillon, the black and white battle standard of the Templars. Despite these changes, the core imagery of the two knights stayed constant, a reminder of Templars' origins and enduring values. The seal of the Templars, with its rich symbolism and historical significance, has captivated the imagination of historians and enthusiasts alike, becoming an iconic representation of the medieval knightly order. Fact number 10. Templars underwent mysterious initiation rituals. The Knights Templar, steeped in religious and military tradition, were renowned for their secretive and enigmatic initiation rituals. These ceremonies, shrouded in mystery, were a central part of the Templar identity, fostering a sense of exclusivity and mystique around the order. The exact nature of these rituals remains largely unknown, as they were closely guarded secrets, witnessed only by members of the order. This secrecy has led to much speculation and intrigue over the centuries, with rumors of complex and esoteric rites. The initiation process was designed not only to test the resolve and faith of the aspirants, but also to bind them to the order's strict code of conduct and secrecy. The allure of these mysterious Templar rituals has captivated historians and enthusiasts alike, inspiring various theories and legends. Some accounts suggest that the ceremonies included elements of symbolic death and rebirth, reflecting the Templars' transition from secular knights to warrior monks. Others propose that the rituals involved the veneration of relics or the enactment of symbolic battles, aligning with the Templars' dual nature as both holy men and soldiers. The lack of concrete evidence and the dramatic end of the order have only fueled further fascination, embedding the Templar rituals in the realm of legend and myth. This air of mystery surrounding their rites continues to be a key element in the enduring legacy and appeal of the Knights Templar in popular culture. Fact number 11. Templars wielded significant influence on an international level. The influence of the Knights Templar extended far beyond the battlefield and the walls of their commanderies. They became an international power with a presence and impact that stretched across Christendom. This influence was not just military. The Templars were involved in political, economic, and even ecclesiastical affairs. They acted as advisors to kings and popes, wielded significant influence in the crusading strategies, and were often involved in diplomatic missions. Their international network of commanderies facilitated communication and the flow of resources, making them an integral part of medieval European politics. The Templars' influence also extended to the common people, who often saw them as protectors and benefactors. Their involvement in local communities through charitable works and the establishment of infrastructures like bridges and roads earned them goodwill and support. However, their power and wealth also bred suspicion and envy among both secular and religious authorities, contributing to their eventual downfall. The Templars' role as an international force illustrates the complex interplay between religious orders and political power in medieval Europe, highlighting how religious motivations were often intertwined with secular ambitions. Fact number 12. Friday the 13th has a curious tie to Templar history. The downfall of the Knights Templar is closely linked to the date of Friday, October 13, 1307, a day that has since been associated with bad luck and superstition. On this day, King Philippe IV of France, in a coordinated and a sudden move, arrested hundreds of Templars, including Grand Master Jacques de Molay. These arrests marked the beginning of the end for the Templar order. The charges against them were varied and sensational, including heresy, idolatry, and corruption. This day's events were shocking, not only because of the scale and swiftness of the arrests, but also because of the revered status that the Templars held in society. The choice of Friday the 13th for the arrests was likely coincidental, but over time, it has contributed to the mystique and superstitions surrounding this date. The Templars' arrest on this day was a result of a complex web of factors, including King Philip's debt to the Templars and his desire to assert control over their wealth and influence. The events of this day and the subsequent trials and dissolution of the Templar order were a turning point in medieval history, signaling shifts in the balance of power between the monarchy, the church, and knightly orders. The legacy of this event continues to intrigue historians and has cemented Friday the 13th as a date of ominous significance in popular culture. Fact number 13. The Templar trials included torture to extract confessions. The trial of the Knights Templar was a pivotal event in the history of the order and medieval Europe. Following their arrest on charges of heresy and other crimes, the Templars were subjected to a series of trials that were heavily influenced by the political and financial motivations of King Philippe IV of France and Pope Clement V. These trials were marked by irregularities and the use of torture to extract confessions, making their legality and fairness a subject of historical debate. The Templars, once revered as the epitome of Christian warrior monks, found themselves vilified and their order at the mercy of secular and ecclesiastical powers. The dissolution of the Templars was officially decreed by the papal bull Vox in Excelso in 1312. This marked the end of the order, with their properties and assets being transferred to the Hospitallers and other orders, or seized by local monarchies. The Templars' downfall was not just the demise of a military order, it represented a significant shift in the power dynamics of medieval Europe. The trials and dissolution of the Templars serve as a cautionary tale about the interplay of power, greed, and politics in history, and their impact remains a topic of fascination and study in both scholarly and popular contexts. Fact number 14. Many people believe the Templars hid priceless artifacts. The Knights Templar have been the subject of numerous myths and legends, particularly regarding their supposed hidden treasure. After the dissolution of the order, rumors spread about the vast wealth that the Templars had accumulated and the mysterious disappearance of these riches. These legends suggest that the Templars managed to hide their treasure from the authorities, leading to endless speculation about its nature and location. The treasure, often imagined as gold, relics, ancient scrolls, or even the Holy Grail and Ark of the Covenant, has captivated treasure hunters and enthusiasts for centuries. The fascination with Templar treasure is fueled by the secretive nature of the order and the abrupt manner in which it was disbanded. The lack of concrete evidence regarding the fate of their wealth allows for a wide range of possibilities. Some speculate that the treasure was hidden in various locations, from the depths of the Paris Temple to distant lands like Scotland or the Americas. Others believe that the treasure was not material, but esoteric knowledge or religious relics. The Templar treasure myths are a blend of historical facts, folklore, and imagination, making them a perennial topic of interest in books, movies, and popular culture. Fact number 15. The legend of the Knights Templar continues to thrive. The Templars' intriguing blend of monastic life and martial prowess, coupled with their mysterious demise, has made them a subject of endless fascination and speculation. In contemporary culture, the Templars are often depicted in literature, film, and television, sometimes as noble warriors, and other times as keepers of ancient and arcane secrets. This diverse portrayal reflects the multifaceted nature of the Templar legacy, which combines historical facts with a rich layer of myth and legend. The order's symbolism, particularly the iconic Templar cross and their distinctive white mantle with a red cross, has become a staple in depictions of medieval history and chivalry, resonating with audiences throughout the earth. The Templars' enduring presence in popular culture is not only a testament to their historical significance, but also to their ability to captivate the imagination, serving as a bridge between the past and the present. Their legacy, therefore, is not just preserved in the annals of history, but continuously evolves and is reshaped in the realms of art, literature, and entertainment, ensuring that the legend of the Knight Templar continues to thrive in the modern day.
So you can see there's so many fascinating things to talk about there about that video. The first one being the Knights Templar and the incredible international reach and power that they achieved in a 200-year period. All of it started by 7 monks from France. All of them were interested in being knights and being protectors for Christians who were making the journey to Jerusalem and to the Holy Land and to the chosen land. And they wanted to be those protectors. And as they did that, initially, they started to grow and recruit more members. And the order was founded. It essentially became a brotherhood that knights and Christians and other Catholics would join, and started to join from many different countries from around Western Europe. And it grew and grew. And as you see, the influence of the order grew to the point where they started having people in Europe to escort the pilgrims from Europe to Jerusalem. And then they also would station large portions of their knighthood and support personnel in Jerusalem itself, around the Temple Mount and around the area that they lived and protected. And then, of course, after that religious phase, military phase, they went into their kind of land owning and banking phase. And you saw that that was an incredible impact that rippled all through Europe and through the Levant. And that was that they set up banking branches at all the different castles that they were holding and managing at the time, to the point where pilgrims in Europe could deposit money in Europe at one branch and then go take that money out at a different branch in the Holy Land, which was a new type of banking that had never been tried before. They really revolutionized banking, very similar to the way we do it today. This was a completely new concept, and they really changed the way things were done. So really fascinating there. And then also the fact that they had a big impact on medicine. They combined their knowledge from Europe with the knowledge they were learning from their Muslim brothers that they were interacting with, and doctors. So their doctors and the Muslim doctors would interact and share information, share data, share different types of solutions they were giving their patients and different techniques to help patients to heal, to bandage patients up and try to help them survive from battles. So all of those things really, really fascinating in terms of their impact on medicine. And then finally, their impact in some of the major battles that occurred during those 200 years, their incredible prowess on the battlefield, essentially being the greatest of all the cavalry units in all those different battles, and their huge impact and contributions to the Crusades themselves. Some of those battles in the Crusades, in early Crusades, they actually had humongous victories out of those. And then there were some later battles that they were in some of the later Crusades that they ended up losing, and losing tremendous numbers of Knights Templar. So really interesting facts there, as you saw in that video. Another thing I'd mention is, of course, they got the name Templar from their positioning of their main guard around the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, which is the holiest site of the 3 religions. So hopefully you learned a lot from that video, learned a lot from this history of the Knights Templar, that you want to learn more about them, want to dig more into their history and what their impact was over those 200 years. Of course, when they eventually were disbanded by the French king, who was jealous, along with other kingdoms around Europe, and very nervous about the amount of power and influence that the Templars had gotten and how popular they were. All very interesting facts that you'll see when you dig into this topic. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of great content coming your way, and hopefully you enjoy history as much as we do. We'll see you next time on Traveling Through History. Thank you very much.